Welcome back to our third Space Club Career Chat. This week we're working on plants in space, and I hope you guys had an out of this world great time. So we're going to jump into today's career chat. Again, this is your Space Club Mission Control. We have Natasha Wilkerson.
Hey, everybody.
And then my name is Aspen Meineke. And today we have an awesome guest speaker. His name is Slade Peters, and he is a NASA Ground Operations Manager and Crew Module Training Article Project Manager. So don't worry, he will tell you guys all about what that is. He works at NASA Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida. And when I was also speaking with him, he said he does some work in California. And so I know we have some people from California on here. So he will also, again, talk a little bit about that. For his education, he has a Bachelor's of Science in Agricultural and Biological Engineering from Pennsylvania State University, and a Master's of Science in Outreach Engineering Management from University of Florida. So again, really quick housekeeping rules. We will not be calling on students during the session. Your mics will remain off and your cameras will remain off as well. So if you do have any questions to ask him as we are going through our questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A box, and we will be picking 1 to 2 questions to ask him at the end of this chat. All right, so Slade, if you would like to come on and just tell the students a little bit about yourself and what you do for NASA.
Absolutely. Can you see me?
Yep, good to go.
All right, good deal. So hi, everybody. I am Slade Peters. As Aspen said, I work at the Kennedy Space Center. I am the NASA Ground Operations Manager for the Landing and Recovery team. So essentially what we do is we are building the next big rocket that's going to send astronauts to the moon, Mars, and beyond. My job is to essentially get all the equipment ready. Then we go out to California. We work with the Navy to go recover the capsule out in the Pacific Ocean. We bring it back to land, and then we essentially put it on the back of a flatbed truck, and we bring it all the way back across the country, back to Kennedy Space Center to do all the inspections and everything to make sure it went into space, performed like it was supposed to, and then be able to certify our next capsule that will take astronauts actually up around the moon about 1.5 years later. My other job at this point is I am also the project manager in building our new training article that will help train our DoD, Department of Defense, and NASA crews out in California. So before every mission, we actually have to go and do a bunch of testing, and we actually go out and deploy a training capsule and actually practice recovering it like we would on a real mission day to make sure the team's ready to go before the actual capsule lands in the Pacific Ocean.
Wow, that sounds like such an exciting job. It must be a long drive from California all the way back to Florida for the capsule to go.
Yep, anywhere from about 6 to 10 days.
Wow, that's a pretty big responsibility.
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna jump into our first question, which was, how did you become interested in engineering? And this is from the Cosmos in California.
So for a couple of these questions, you're going to hear me talk about my background in the little dairy farm that I grew up on in Pennsylvania. So I really kind of became interested in engineering working on the farm growing up because I did a lot of hands-on work, and you work on all kinds of heavy equipment and heavy machinery, and you always have ideas on, well, you know, if I designed this, how could I go make it better, and how can I make it more easily fixable, and some of those other types of things. So I think the farming background is really what kind of pushed me in the engineering direction. And a real quick story, I actually started down the path of electrical engineering, got to Penn State, did one of my very first labs, took about an hour trying to put a little wire into a circuit board, and then actually decided I would rather go do agricultural engineering and work on big, heavy equipment. So that's actually what I graduated with, was agricultural engineering, specialized in power machinery and off-road equipment.
Nice. Awesome. And then we have one more question about engineering. So what do you do as an engineer, and what is it like to be an engineer? And this question is from Space Galaxers in Texas.
Okay, so my role today is more of an operations manager. So I work with our whole team of engineers to make sure all of our operational requirements are met. So we have to go do things within certain tolerances and within certain time frames to get the space capsule back, and make sure we check it out before we actually put it on the road and drive it home. Um, so really, it's my job to work with all the engineers and everybody out there to make sure that we get the capsule back, we get the astronauts out safely, and then we get everything packaged up and bring it home safely, so we can get all the inspections and everything done that we need to get done. It's really cool to be an ops manager and be the kind of engineer that I've been coming through, because not only do you get to start with a lot of the hands-on engineering work, but as you kind of work your way up, you also get to look at kind of the whole broad picture, and you start focusing on one little piece of in a hydraulic system, and then you get to my level and you actually look at the whole picture and actually how we're going to go launch and recover the capsule. So it's very cool because you get to kind of see the whole picture from start to finish.
Yeah. And like when thinking back on your career path, how did you transition from being like an engineer to being more of a management position? Like, was that right away, or were you an engineer at NASA for a while and then did NASA tell you, hey, we need you as a manager, or was that like your decision, or how does that work?
Well, so it was a little bit of both. So I started as a hydraulic engineer, worked on the hydraulic systems on the space shuttle. I actually worked that for about the first 7 or 8 years of my career. We flew out the shuttle program, and then we helped transition the shuttles and send them to museums. In that time frame, I started as kind of the lower level journeyman engineer, and then as I kind of learned and got more experience, I actually worked with a lot of our leads and the higher level engineering folks to start taking on some more responsibility on my own. And then as I kind of took that initiative and built up my knowledge and my experience, the agency and the program actually asked me to go kind of help do some of the bigger things as I moved up in my career. So I actually moved up to be a NASA test director at Kennedy Space Center, which that group really does all the integrated testing of the vehicle before we launch it and all the launch countdown operations. And I went and kind of helped them lay that out for this new program. And then I transitioned from there actually into the landing and recovery side, because they actually needed some kind of ops help on that side and didn't have a lot of experience. So they actually asked me to go work on the recovery side, and that's what I've been doing now for about the last 4.5 or 5 years.
Awesome. Yeah, initiative is actually one of our like STEM career words of the week. And so taking initiative an important part of being an engineer?
Absolutely. So in my experience, the more initiative you take, and the more things you can take on and help you learn and grow your experience, the better overall engineer and leader you're going to be for whatever team you're working on, whether it's a hydraulic engineering team at a small level or whether it's for the NASA agency going to figure out how we actually go do landing and recovery of a space capsule end to end. So one of the key pieces of advice I always give students when I'm talking to them is it's all about motivation and working hard and taking that initiative, and that's really kind of the first step to getting there, along with keeping up with school and studies and making sure you know all the stuff in the books as well.
Right. I think it's important to like not only do what you're supposed to do, but kind of go the extra mile as well.
Yep. Agreed.
All right. So for our next question, that's NASA related. So how long have you worked at NASA's Kennedy Space Center? And this question is from Country People in Ohio.
Okay. So I actually started at the Kennedy Space Center in 2006. I hit 14 years actually about a month ago.
Congratulations.
So yeah, thank you. I spent my first 8 to 9 years in the APU and hydraulic group, working on the space shuttle auxiliary power units and hydraulic systems. And then from there, I transitioned into the NASA Test Director office and now the Landing and Recovery office.
Wow. Did you go to Kennedy like right out of college, or did you work somewhere else beforehand? Nice.
Yep. So I grew my first 20 years. My first 20 years was being a farm kid in Pennsylvania. Throughout the summers at Penn State, I worked on the farm, but I also worked some other places. I worked in a couple heat treat shops in my hometown of Meadville. I actually had a couple internships with a couple of my professors at Penn State, helping them do some things. And just it all kind of builds up. So any opportunity you can get to do any kind of work, whether it's related to your field or even if you don't think it's related, a lot of that experience helps build you into the leader and the person you're going to be. So take any opportunity you can get and work hard at it.
Yeah, and a lot of times for all the students listening, I've seen internships even available for high school students. And so even in, when you're a junior or senior in high school, you can actually start, getting involved in the fields that you're interested in.
Yep. And actually at Kennedy, we do have internships that we can do for high school students and college students going through as well. So.
And one of the questions this week that we asked the students was to find like the nearest NASA center near them. And so for all of you guys that did that question, find the nearest NASA center near you and see if there are any internship opportunities, when you do go to high school. All right, so for our next question, I absolutely love this question. This question was awesome. So how do you feel when you see a space shuttle or rocket launch about to take off? Can you kind of give us the feelings and your thoughts in the moment? And that's from the STEM Hunters group in New York.
Okay, so it's a little bit of trepidation and excitement all at the same time. And I say that because you always have a little bit of trepidation as you're getting close to launch to make sure all the systems are working and everything is going to go as planned to take off. But the other thing I have to say is when it takes off and you see it go and you see it get up into orbit and you see the astronauts starting to do what they do, it's the greatest feeling in the world to know that you were part of helping get those guys and gals up there and keep them safe and get them to do the job they do. So it's definitely awesome to see when they take off, but there is some nerves as you're getting ready to take off, just making sure it's going to go too.
Yeah, I can't even imagine the amount of stress you must feel in the moment.
Not as much as our launch director.
All right. And then another question we had was, what do you find difficult in leading a group of people? So this question was from KALEE in New York. And so I guess, can you talk about do you work with teams of people and, what is it like managing them?
Absolutely. So in the job I'm in right now, we work with the U.S. Navy. We also work with the State Department. We work with NASA, and we work with folks at multiple different NASA centers and multiple different DoD installations. I think the most difficult piece in leading a group of people is all of the different personalities and personality types. So you have some folks that you can give a task and just have them go run with it, and you never have to worry about it. You have other folks that will come and ask you for help and need a little more help because maybe they don't have as much experience as some of the other folks. And then just the way you have to communicate back and forth is also a big thing. And that's really one of the challenges that we've learned during the COVID-19 phase here is working through teams and not being face to face and being able to see and talk to people on a daily basis. It really makes communication a lot more critical and a lot more challenging to make sure everybody's getting the things done that we need to get done to make sure we can launch and recover and keep everybody safe and the hardware safe.
Yeah, I feel especially when it comes to everything that happened with COVID and just working with teams of people, being adaptable, I think is the number one skill.
Absolutely. I still say I'm more farmer than engineer because I tend to adapt more than I probably need to in a lot of situations, but it's definitely helped out a lot.
Yeah, well, that segues in my next question perfectly.
There you go.
So our students were really interested just about your background and where you grew up. And so this question from Pisces in New York asked, it's mentioned that you grew up on a farm. Did you use all that space to experiment and build? And when did you get interested in NASA?
So I did use a lot of that space to experiment and build. Whether it was, I think whether it was doing the kind of the mechanic piece on the farm where you were kind of building and rebuilding all the 30 to 50-year-old pieces of equipment that you were trying to keep running, versus also I spent a lot of time with my dad and my brother, like wiring barns and building buildings and doing a lot of the other things that typically you have engineering firms and engineers and teams of people doing that. On a farm, you really just got to go and kind of figure it out and get it done. So I did get interested in NASA from an early age. My parents would take us out in the backyard at night. We would watch meteor showers and like some of the planets and things that were available for us to go see. And anytime they had space shuttles or launches on TV, my dad always made sure that we were there and able to watch it. I mean, even if we had hay to do or cows to milk or something else, we'd take that 5 or 10 minutes just to kind of watch and see it take off and kind of get the imagination going. So that I did get interested in NASA from a very early age in that respect.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so more about life on the farm. When you were a kid, did you have to wake up early and do farm work every morning? And this question is from Bob, the Space Builders in California.
So I will say we were not your typical farmers. So we didn't get up at like 4 a.m. every morning and get things done before we went to school. We typically started milking anywhere between 6 and 7 in the morning and then 6 and 7 at night. So we would not do a lot of work before school, but as soon as we got off the bus after school, we would be out working until dark or even late into the night trying to get things done, whether it was hay and corn or cows fed or machinery fixed. Or so we put in a lot of hours. They weren't always necessarily in the morning before we went to school, but they definitely got their money's worth out of us.
Yeah, it sounds like from an early age, you really had to find good, time management and be able to, balance and juggle everything.
Yep, absolutely.
And then do you just have cows on the farm, or do you have other animals, or?
No, so we were strictly a dairy farm. So we did have the jerseys, the brown cows in the picture there. We had a lot of cats, and we grew up with dogs throughout, but we didn't have chickens or pigs or any of the other animals. We had 400 or 500 cows, so taking care of them was more than enough.
That's crazy amount. Wow, I had 400 to 500. Wow, that's a lot of how many people worked on the farm?
So they've actually got about 450 to 500 now. Growing up, we started right about probably 250, and we gradually grew as we kind of grew up and went through. It typically has been my mom and my dad have run it since the early 80s. It's actually been in our family since like the 1880s.
Wow.
So my dad and my mom inherited it from a third cousin that had owned it up to them, and then we've always had 2 or 3 hired help that have helped us throughout. But my brother and sister are actually there full time now, helping my mom and dad with a couple extra folks, helping them milk and do everything else. So.
Yeah. All right. And then our next question was, how did growing up on a farm teach you the skills you need to eventually work at Kennedy Space Center? And this question is from Shouting Stars in New Mexico.
Okay. And I think I answered this throughout, but One of the main things that I think I learned on the farm growing up is the motivation and the working hard. So no matter what the task is, you have to get it done. And we would always work hard to get it done and then move on to the next task. And really, whether you're on a farm or at your house or doing something else anywhere you are, I think that was the big thing that I learned was the as long as you work hard and you're motivated, that's going to take you a lot of places. The other thing that I learned, Aspen, I think you talked a little bit about was time management. That's a big thing. So knowing when you have things that need to be done by a certain time and kind of prioritizing and focusing on those tasks and getting them done first, and then kind of working on some of the other tasks that you need to work that maybe you can take a little more time on. That was another thing I learned. And then I think the other thing I learned on the farm, and mainly it was because we had our family of 5 with a couple hired help, and being that close was the kind of the communication that I've talked about too. Working with family is not always the easiest thing in the world to do, but you learn real quick how to communicate and how to work with everybody to their kind of their strengths and weaknesses, and making sure everybody can work together to get the job done. So that was the other thing I think that helped me quite a bit growing up on the farm.
It sounds like you practiced those leadership skills pretty early on.
Yep.
All right, and so a question we ask all of our speakers that come on here is from Space Club Mission Control is, if you were taking a trip to the moon and could bring only one item from home, what would it be?
So from my standpoint at this moment, I would probably say my contact lenses, because I can't see anything without them. And I'd want to be able to see everything once I got up there.
Yeah, that's pretty important. That's a good one. All right, Natasha, are there any other questions?
Yeah, so I'm debating if I should ask this, but we have a lot of students that are in cities, and I don't think they know what a dairy farm is, which is to
Okay.
produce milk. And so they're asking if you ever eat the animals.
So that's a good question. So we do. So on the dairy farm, all the cows we have typically are to make milk, and then we ship that milk for everybody around the country to make cheese, ice cream. But typically when the cows don't make milk anymore, we will send them off, and get them butchered. So it's kind of a circle of life thing.
Yep. Yeah, I think whenever you don't live on a farm or in the country, you don't see that, how it gets to your plate in front of you. So that's an interesting insight. Yeah, that was our main question. So thanks again for joining us. That was really interesting to hear your story, from being on a farm and now a NASA engineer. It's just really fascinating. And we had actually found an article that was written, I think, from your hometown. So everybody must be really excited to say they knew this NASA engineer.
Well, I get phone calls every few years asking to do interviews in the paper up there. So there's probably a couple more floating around out there, but
That's awesome. Well, thank you again. So now we're going to switch
absolutely.
over. Did you want to add something?
Nope. No, I just said thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. So Aspen, we can move to our project highlights. Okay, so now we're going to focus on last week's project, because as you know, we look at everybody's submissions from last week, and then we're going to do our big raffle at the end. But first, I want to share a little highlights video. You guys built an astronaut suit, so we designed the helmet and the boot, and I was really impressed with some of your designs. And then you guys did a mission patch, just like NASA's astronauts do a mission patch for every mission when they want to go into space to the International Space Station. There's the Artemis mission patch. You guys had designed your own individual mission patch. So if you want to play the video of some of our highlights. Awesome. Great job, everybody. And next week, we'll be highlighting your plants in space video or your project. So now the part that you're waiting for, which is our weekly winners. So let's see, Aspen, what they're going to win. Here we go. So just as a reminder, make sure you complete those Goose Chase missions. So we're in week 3. So if you want to be entered in next week's raffle, you've got to finish all those this week's missions. So I'm going to be pulling for this week. Everybody who did the astronaut suit questions that successfully completed them was entered in the raffle. I got a question, if you won, can you win again? And the answer is yes. I'm putting everybody in the raffle. So keep trying and doing an awesome job. And we love seeing your submissions. So now let's see what they're going to win. So you were going to have 2 lucky winners this week. We're going to give you 2 prizes. One of them is a NASA decal set. There's 60 different decals here. We thought since you guys did mission patches this week, we could send you these awesome stickers to put on your computer, your phone, whatever you want to add it to, plus a really awesome virtual reality headset. You can put your phone in this. It's a little cardboard virtual reality set, and you can download an app. There's a really fun one. My favorite's the roller coaster one. So you can look like you're going up and down a roller coaster. You can launch on a rocket. You can see what it's like to be on Mars. There's footage from the rovers there, and you can do like a 360-degree view on Mars. Really awesome stuff. So let's see who our winners are. Need some drum roll music. So our first raffle winner goes to Aces in Brooklyn, New York. Woo! I hear the cheers. All right, and our second raffle winner goes to the Country People in Carroll, Ohio. Congratulations to our teams. All right, and as a reminder, keep submitting because we'll have weekly winners, and then there's going to be our grand finale prize that your school could win, such as a 3D printer, set of robots, or model rockets. Great seeing you guys today. Thank you again to Slade Peters for talking with us, and we will see you next week.